My initial interest in the topic comes from the classic idea of the prisoner's dilemma, where when individuals act in their own self-interest, they produce an outcome that is unfavorable for all the individuals. And so I thought the idea of mitigating climate change was kind of just a big game of prisoner's dilemma, with all the countries in the world kind of the players. And this is because, as each country acts in their own self-interest, no country wants to actually address the issue of climate change and mitigating climate change themselves. They leave it to the other countries to do so. And so no country does anything, and so this socially optimal outcome is not able to be reached. And I thought that it was really kind of sad how, despite all of our technological advancements and progress as a human race, we are still unable to solve this classic case of prisoner's dilemma, which has existed from the beginning of time, essentially. And so what I knew about the topic before I went into it, I knew actually quite little. I had ideas that certain countries, would be doing their part in mitigating climate change. Certain countries would be doing less for various reasons, but I really didn't have anything concrete or any kind of numerical or factual evidence. And so this was one of the main things I had to look for in my research. Regarding my research process, what I did first was, before I did any work on artifacts, I made sure to get generally acquainted with the issue, like such as what countries are doing what countries are not doing anything, and the reasoning behind like what these countries are doing. Regarding what I learned about my topic, I obviously learned a lot about, what the various countries' policies are on climate change and how these policies have changed as climate change has become more of a pressing issue. I also developed deeper insights into the struggles faced by a developing nation and how they really are, although they're really trying very hard to infiltrate that small section of elite developed nations, it's very difficult for them. Regarding what I learned about the research in itself, I learned a lot about how to approach researching something that I have no knowledge about. As for example, for my narrative, I had to research the history of Somalia and the reasons for having such a long history of internal conflict, as I did kind of a case study on Somalia. And obviously it was a rather daunting process, but the project gave me a good exposure and experience in synthesizing resources that, although I've had no experience previously looking at or having some sort of knowledge about, it's kind of been able, through the process, I've been able to make this kind of manageable. Responding to the last question about what I hope my audience learns, feels, thinks, and or does based on my project, I talk more in depth about this on my call to action slide, but primarily I want them to feel a great sense of injustice, an injustice that's happening right under their noses that they haven't known about, and so hopefully they'll become an advocate for these underdog developing nations. I think this is very important, as we really are not exposed to much of this from their underdeveloping nations' perspectives, as the vast majority of our media is from a Western perspective, and so we have few and far between opportunities to empathize with individuals from developing countries, as well as to really understand what their situations are like and kind of the struggles that they go through on a daily basis.